great feeling with such a sensational Liz here with a dynamic presence of a force that just wants to express the beauty of life. She expresses it with such a thrill and excitement, with feelings and sensations that just overflow. What is this? Oh, the presence of love lives here. So, this great presence of love indeed has found a home within each. And where does this dynamic presence of love reside? Oh, wow. Of course, this dynamic presence of love truly lives in our heart space. And so, as we begin to delve deep into what this dynamic presence of love means to us, we begin to reflect and see what does it truly mean to be in our heart space. You see, our heart, when we look at it just from a form nature, we see that it's this great organ in our body that pumps blood and oxygen to give us the breath of life. And so we often tell ourselves that in order for us to be able to deeply connect with our senses and be able to even have this great feeling and this great emotion of expression within ourselves and our bodies, we are to remain with this dynamic presence of this great unconditional love that resides within our heart space. And so the heart space is something that has truly been coming up throughout the entire existence of our lives. Now we begin to see a lot of times we could think of just showing our love in nature as more of a feminine characteristic. But what we are now even being asked to see is that the love presence is the entire existence of our being. And so, as we are seeing that we have been created by our Creator presence, indeed in its image, with a trifecta effect that was sort of been in separation throughout the eons of ages. And as we begin to fully awaken and go through this great stage of evolution, we're calling back all parts of ourselves during this era and many previous lifetimes to fully merge into the dynamic love presence. Now, many may feel like the heart space, connecting into the feminine essence, is this great emotion of passion, this great, almost like a submissive nature. And so we begin to see that the feminine aspect of ourselves has truly been kind of diminished. And as we begin to heal and transform ourselves from within, as we are seeing all the connecting dots that's going on in our greater cosmos and tying it even to other planets. For example, I've spoken before the planet of Venus, which is the planet of love. And we see that the planet of Mars was represented as the masculine aspect, and we begin to see that this separation and divide was indeed a divide between the most dynamic features of ourselves, as we see the representation of man and woman in this stage of our form and being. We begin to see that that was a great way of diminishing us from who we are. If we go back to the very existence of co-creation, we begin to see that we are such powerful dynamic beings. And now in this great stage of awakening, we are to truly come back within this great dynamic heart space of love. Now, the reason for even bringing this separation up is to show you that all of the form nature of ourselves. Like, we are emotional beings, they've taught us that the feminine aspect is more an internalized nurturing aspect of ourselves, and the masculine has to have this almost powerful nature. And we're calling back all of this to say that no, this is not what our pure essence and nature is all about. It has to be in equilibrium. And we begin to see that oftentimes the trifecta effect of our being, the inner child presence, have been left wounded, which, as you could go back in your own existence of this lifetime, being a baby, you represented such a pure nature of love. Being a child, being in that play state and joy, until you learned certain traits and characteristics in your life from those around you and your environment, and you picked it up. So what I want to say is that a very important thing is to see to it that we have to let go of the existence, especially when it comes to the masculine nature, of being this powerful force with no emotion and not being able to be in the heart space. Almost like they've depicted many depictions and, should I say, symbolisms, of what the man represents, the father figure, even in our astrological chart, it shows us, we have a father figure in Capricorn, which is very, all around us right now, taking shape and being put out there to see what it's meant to represent. But we're being asked to, we're in the rebalancing stage here on Earth. And Earth, being the co-creative presence, is calling us back to be able to be in our masculine nature, our feminine nature, and our inner child nature, all within us, and to be reflected outside of us, to have this dynamic presence of love. Now, one thing that I truly want to touch on, throughout my lifetime, during this stage of my lifetime, I remember just growing up and, having to show certain characteristics of my feminine nature. Now, I was always someone, I think from a very young age, I was told that, these characteristics came out through me, even through different personalities, where my siblings even named, these personalities to say that this is the side of me, I could say, when I'm more in my masculine nature, this is the side when I'm more in my feminine nature, and this is the side when I'm in my inner child nature. And so now, even being able to reflect and say, wow, I've always kind of been at one with it, but just then wasn't able to, put that reasoning throughout it. And as I begin to fully awaken, I begin to see that the feminine nature has been put down. And I remember always growing up and just, when I laugh a lot, shedding tears. And so, even as a child, people might question that, like, why are you crying? I could have just said it was tears of joy. But I'm now connecting the dots and even seeing that, wow, you see how the inner child essence of joy was reflected through tears. And tears is a very, feministic nature, where it shows us that we're feeling that great emotion. Now, tears has been used in our current lifetime to reflect great pain and, when you're letting go of, the hurt and whatever other lower vibrational things. But we are now to see that being in our heart space is not always about what they've quote unquote labeled the feminine characteristic as being this great mother and nurturer that reflected an essence of sadness. It's to show us that whether it be in our inner child, as I use the example, and now diminishing this stronghold presence of the masculine, where they are not supposed to show emotion, where they can simmer down a little bit and be in that calm nature and bring together the feminine within them and connect with the inner child to show that, wow, even just using the picture to see that. For you, a lot of people, from my own experience, they will connect with you and feel like if you're crying, if you're reflecting that you're releasing that pain and suffering, that is showing that you're in your heart space and you're connecting with your feminine nature. But no, we have to begin to merge all three. And whether your expression of, your love presence and in your heart space means that you have to show that, masculinity. As I say, the divine masculine is more like just the presence of action, but can also merge with that passionate, nurturing side as the mother and that joyous, playful nature of the inner child present to see that, wow, this is what being in the heart space is all about. Not necessarily just sticking to one attribute of who we are. Being able to truly represent who we are from a point of view, from a co-creator that's able to remain in the dynamic trifecta effect of our purest nature and just fully flow with this dynamic presence of unconditional love. And as I smile, representing the inner child presence, and as I just touch my heart, representing this loving presence of the divine feminine, and as I just stand strongly with a dynamic present, taking action on a daily basis to continue to merge all three within, I say, love is the most beautiful presence that resides within each and every one of us in our heart space, calling us back to become a wholesome being as we connect with it and reflect it throughout our universe. As we continue to evolve through this great awakening